Sita, I think I'm being stalked.
What?
Wherever I go, whatever I do, it's right there.
Okay. Are you okay, Subha? That doesn't sound very safe.
No, I'm more than okay. It's actually a good thing in a way. I know that
Oh,
sounds a little weird or creepy,
very,
but I'm not
very.
but I'm not too bothered about it honestly.
Okay. Go on.
So, I've been dreaming of this shiny gadget that'll save my life called a Dyson vacuum cleaner. And now, whatever app I open, be it Instagram or Facebook or I don't know, it's right there. A nice, shiny Dyson vacuum cleaner with these shiny buttons that say, click me, buy me, take me home now. And I
Oh,
can't
damn.
afford it.
Good point, Subha. I don't think you need a vacuum cleaner right now, but I'll let remarketing do the magic. How many times did you look up the vacuum cleaner online before all this started happening?
I think I WhatsApped my
Oh.
husband and he ignored it. And then I think I probably looked it up on Amazon and then felt really bad and closed the tab.
So clearly more power to Dyson for knowing how to remarket and how to spy on people to just the right extent. Great job, guys. So before we dive into what is remarketing, what is paid marketing at all? And this massive umbrella of things called performance marketing, why don't we just ask the expert?
That sounds really good.
Welcome to the Damn Good Marketing Podcast. Today, we are discussing something that all of us have wondered. In fact, we just spent 5 minutes wondering about it, but not all of us really understand. What is performance marketing? What are ad budgets? And how do I make all these seemingly amorphous concepts work for me? We have with us today Vismaya, founder at The Orange Heart, one of the best performance marketers I know, and someone I'm glad to call a friend. Hi, Vismaya.
Hi, Hasita. Thank you so much for having me here.
Amazing. Are you excited?
I'm very excited for all the questions you have and all the gyan I will be sharing with you, hopefully.
We really look forward to that.
Totally, Vismaya. Really looking forward to all the marketing gyan that's, freely floating in your head.
So, Vismaya, Subha and I were just talking about, I think, what in the world of marketing is known as a remarketing campaign, and how people, the moment you browse something on the internet, you are hounded, literally hounded in very creative ways, hopefully, until the time you buy. So, the first question that I'd like to ask you today is, what even is performance marketing?
That's a great question. I think a lot of us also confuse it with just running ads. Think about it this way. Performance marketing is what enables the courtship of what one needs and what one has, right? So if you think of a marketplace, the erstwhile marketplace, you had all of the people who had their products to sell sitting out there calling out the cost of each of those items, and then you just browse past them, you pick up what you need, and there you have established a sort of transactional relationship. But in the modern day, it doesn't just end at one transaction, right? Because there are repeat purchases that are needed. There is more than what you need at that particular instant. So therefore, there is a lot of nurturing that has to be done. So it's a culmination of intent and being able to deliver what one needs at the right time and at the right place. So this seems a little vague even, but I think one thing that performance marketing really does is it fast tracks your business goals. So the process of getting to your business goals, which more often than not are defined as your sales targets or the number of customers you need to acquire and things like that. Performance marketing is able to get you there a lot faster.
So, in a way, what I'm hearing you say is that the dust particle size sorter was exactly what Subha and I needed to purchase a Dyson vacuum cleaner. And that's the performance marketing component, and the ad is simply a subset.
Yes. So ads sort of feed into your entire performance marketing piece. So your performance marketing piece identifies the right cohort of people that you want to talk to, feed them the right content on the right platforms, and finally get them into a funnel where they move from awareness to actual purchase. And a lot of the times it doesn't end at purchase also. So they will then go ahead. For instance, if Subha actually ends up picking up the Dyson vacuum cleaner, she will come back to you and say, "Hey, Hasika, I'm having a great experience. I think you should do it too." So it's almost a
Hmm.
flywheel concept. It's not really a funnel anymore. So that's what us marketers are always gunning for.
I just have a quick follow up on what you just said about the flywheel concept. So
Mhm.
when Subha comes and recommends the vacuum cleaner to me, like she just did, and I think all three of us are also going to buy vacuum cleaners in the near future, how do you tie that back to whatever the brand did in terms of impacting Subha? Is there a way to do that?
Sure. One of the ways that a lot of brands have seen success is in having a loyalty program. There are multiple different ways in which you can reward people for going ahead and spending a little bit of their effort and time in telling others about their experience. Very simple. Just yesterday, I picked up a pair of leggings from Bliss Club, and I have been hearing great things about them. I have heard multiple amazing things from very close friends. And immediately after I finished my purchase, they did not lose any time in giving me a 20% off for telling my
Wow.
friends about it. So both me and my friend would get a flat 20% off on our next purchase, which I think is remarkable, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
So those kind of things create the urgency, and also that rewarding mechanism is what a lot of people buy into.
With me, what I'm hearing also is that just using the tools on the platform is not enough. Like I would assume that, okay, if I go to an Instagram ad page and kind of tinker around with the settings and find an audience, etc., that's probably not enough. This needs deep expertise and someone who has kind of dedicated a lot of learning into the kind of ad space. Would that be right? Is that where some of us as business owners are going wrong, thinking that the platform has our best interest at heart?
Well, we can all hope that the platform has our best interest at heart. But I think a little bit of effort needs to go into understanding your audience first, right? What are the things that motivate them? What are the things that trigger them? How can you cajole them into becoming a part of your community? So, unless you put in that effort in understanding their life and their life cycle, the stages of life that they are in, it becomes very difficult for you to reel them in with the right content. So initially, I mean, identifying the motivations and identifying the behavioral patterns of people is literally the first step of your customers, right? Like it's literally the first step. Then later on, you feed those learnings into the platform and see what the platform is going to throw back at you. For instance, if I'm saying for Bliss Club, the people that I want to target are women who are no longer conforming to the standard body size or the dimensions of 32, 24, 32, or whatever it is, and who are actually looking for solutions for movement. That's a very vague definition, right? Though in the books of marketing, it is precise and I have a cohort ready. But what does that amount to when you actually start putting in the targeting on the ad platforms? I need to find surrogates. I need to find probably things that they are following, things that they're doing, things that they conform to in terms of ideologies. So only after I'm able to identify these will I then be able to have a targeting which works, and then for that particular targeting, what is the content that I can use to sort of
Hmm.
get them on that particular platform. Sometimes, when doom scrolling, you don't even pay attention to a lot of the ads that are being served to you. So how do I get somebody's attention when they're scrolling and just browsing through reels and watching dance
Very
movements
passively
after
only.
dance movements, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's literally what needs to be done. So to that effect, I would say either have a very in-depth knowledge, do a complete analysis of your audience, understand them very deeply, or get somebody to do that for you, right? Because by
Hmm.
virtue of having navigated through the platform, through multiple different brands that are trying to reach out to several different cohorts, your expert will be able to add some amount of value. And that is where you'll be able to short circuit the entire process of getting to your success metrics at the end of it.
So it's a very symbiotic process, essentially, in the sense that,
Absolutely.
yeah, so the business owner and the expert are both kind of working in tandem to essentially identify user behavior first, and then use the
Correct.
platform only to the end of scaling an effort like that. Interesting.
Correct. Correct.
Uh,
I have one thing to add over here. I just have one example.
sure.
We were working with a B2B client, and these guys are into sustainability. And sustainability solutions for real estate is something that they have developed as a product. Now, we wanted to get the attention of builders because those are the ones who are going to be the decision makers ultimately for this particular product. But we went about it in a manner which we thought made sense, right? Because we've seen success with B2B clients on LinkedIn through Google Ads because also the search intent is very high on Google. But after about 2 months, we finally said, hey, you know what? We've changed our content. We've changed our landing page. We've changed our targeting. We've changed our budgets. Something doesn't seem to be working at all. That is when we realized that we have to talk to a few people who have already adopted the product. I
Hmm.
interviewed about 3, 4 people who have already adopted the product. We realized that the USPs that they cited were quite different from what the client was telling us. Even if the client, because the clients tend to get extremely excited about everything that they've created, so they cannot be objective about what is really important for their
The
end customer,
user.
right?
Hmm.
So when we spoke to them, it was a completely different story. The second thing that then happened was we asked them, listen, where do you get your real estate news from? Do you spend enough time on LinkedIn trying to look at what other peers in the industry are talking about? Do you have enough time to go through news articles? They just categorically said we do not get our information from social media. Now, for 2 months, we've been going about it the completely wrong way, right? So ultimately, when we ask them, so where do you identify your vendors? Where do you then go ahead and find out whom you want to talk to? They said expos and also newsletters sent by like Credit. So that's
Wow.
where we realized that sometimes, even before you start off the entire process, it's very important not just to get your brief from the client, but to also talk to people who have adopted the product and find out what's working for them and what isn't. And that is where a lot of research sort of comes to the fore, right? We marry our experience with the amount of research that we're doing and then finally come up with solutions that actually make sense in the long run.
And I think, Hasita, this is a good reminder of something we spoke about in the earlier episode, that you fundamentally have to know your customer well first before you start on all these marketing efforts, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I was just reading an article from Y Combinator yesterday, and they say if you're, in business, just focus on two things: know your user and find out where your revenue is coming from. So that's the only two things that actually matter in any business. So this is a good reminder of that. Vismay, I wanted to ask you, this is a question that I'm sure you get quite a lot of, and all of us do in a way.
Mhm.
How soon can we expect results from performance marketing, assuming we are starting from scratch?
Great. I would say, much to the dismay of a lot of people who might be listening to this podcast, it completely depends on the brand that we're working with. So the brand life cycle is something which is extremely important to consider when we're promising these numbers and success metrics as well. So that is one aspect. And performance marketing cannot stand on its own. It needs other things to sort of bolster it. So literally, like, think of this as surround sound. It is not just one speaker which is giving you all the information that you need and converting you into a music junkie. It has to give you that experience. So you can't just go at it unidimensionally, just keep running ads. Just say that, hey, you know what? I have the greatest landing page, a very compelling ad, and I have the target down pat. And this is what I'm going to do for the rest of these 6 months in order to get to my leads. You will not be successful. You will need to have strategy around how you can give them the right kind of content, give them the right kind of help at the right time so that they think of you when they actually need your product or your service. So, to that effect, I would say there are two aspects, right? One is your brand building process. The second part is where you have very defined success metrics and you deploy performance marketing for that. So, without having built a brand, expecting results is as good as saying that I am not ready to put in the work, but I want you to marry me. So just taking the whole analogy of courtship forward. So it's literally that, you know.
I am
I'm not
literally going to take that piece you just said and make it my audiogram, put it on WhatsApp, pin it on Instagram. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
it's literally that. Like I'm not ready to work on myself. I'm not ready to build something that you're going to like. But marry me for I
Because I'm
am the
everywhere.
greatest.
I'm everywhere.
Yeah,
So just
yeah,
like, let's
yeah.
just seal the deal. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So, and I feel like that's the wrong way of going about business. So you can have a good performance marketing base, but if your product is not able to deliver, you will fail faster. So to come back to the question that you asked, how soon can you start seeing results? I would say go about it scientifically. Do a pilot, see, spend a small amount of money, see what kind of results you're able to achieve. Because when you start off, you also define your metrics very loosely, right? Because you have absolutely no benchmark. And let me tell you this, even if there are two brands operating in the same vertical with very similar backgrounds, they will both have very different results when it comes to performance marketing. So can you
Wow.
imagine when people come back and say, hey, but I'm seeing that retail client getting more business, and why am I in the sustainability space not getting a lot of business? Right. So it is really not the same thing.
Yeah, because the
Right.
market isn't ready in the sense that it's ready for a toothpaste, it's not ready for a sustainability solution. So,
Exactly.
yeah. And also, I
Exactly.
think that's very important to call out, in the sense that performance marketing is not a way to accelerate a sales cycle, it's only a way to enhance the sales cycle.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So I think um, being able to do that pilot then offers you the required benchmarks. And then later on, you can figure out what your quarterly targets need to be, what your biannual targets need to be, and things like that. And only then will you be able to also figure what are the intervention points, because you can't keep feeding the same ad or multiple different ads to your customer and leave them there, right? You have multiple touch points. How are you going to engage them in all these touch points? How are you going to give them value on each of these touch points? Because it's again not about push marketing all the time, right? There has to be some sense of getting them into your fold, and the way you do that matters the most. So you can see results in 3 months, you can see results in 6 months, but what you definitely need is a lot of patience to work with the agency that you hire or the performance marketing expert that you hire to get onto the job, to understand your business, to understand the landscape that they are operating in, and then actually trust them to do their work and do the job.
Yes, trust them, please. Please.
But in reality, all this courtship and wooing is an expensive affair, right? Lot of
Mhm.
200, $300 of coffee and expensive popcorn at the movies. So what's the smallest budget that you've seen ads succeed?
We have seen results in as little as 2,000 rupees. This is
Wow.
for B2C clients. And thankfully, we had the support of the client over there who just said, hey, listen, just go ahead and experiment, do whatever it takes. But we also, as a team, are very cognizant of the people that we're working with. So we work with a lot of brands where the companies are bootstrapped and we are empathetic towards the founders and the fact that they are spending a lot of money to get the results that they think that they'll manage to get. So in this particular case, we had the support of the client who gave us the right kind of content, who also gave us enough flexibility and room for us to experiment on different platforms with different targeting. That also is very important. When you feel like a surveillance camera on you all the time and you have to report every half an hour, it becomes very difficult to think straight. So even the things that you'd want to do, if given a chance to, or the flexibility to, you will end up not doing only because the client is being super conservative. So, like I said, 2000 is what we saw great results in. There was a sudden spike in app downloads. There was a sudden spike in the engagement rates that we saw on the platform. So, we have managed to see results. But I don't know what specific vertical you're talking about. If it's a B2B client, then forget about 2000. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And so when you say 2000, you mean they spend 2000 rupees a day on the ads that they set up, right?
No, it was for a 3-day period and we spent 2000 on the whole for the entire campaign.
Okay, as a campaign. Okay.
Yeah, it was just a pilot and we wanted to make sure that we're not caught in the wrong jump. We wanted to make sure that this is something that actually is working for the client. And if things needed to be changed, we'd rather do that when we are piloting than when we are ready to spend a lot more.
Makes sense. And I think that's a reasonable ask from the marketer to say that, 2000 for a campaign to test if it works. And also makes sense that this will probably have better results in B2C where you are okay to hit a wider target. But in B2B, you really may need to spend more just to focus on the right folks, right?
In fact, that was my next question as well. So assuming we are just kind of throwing averages around, a typical B2B business, what kind of budgets are we, kind of telling them to test with? Like, what is a test budget in your mind for a B2B client?
For all the B2B clients that we've worked with, we've set aside about 50 grand for testing. And This is also primarily because LinkedIn as a platform, which generally works with your B2B clients, is
prohibitively
an
expensive.
Yes. You can get an engagement on Instagram for as little as 40 pice. But on LinkedIn, that's not the case. It's upwards of 40-50 rupees per click. And it's a lot more expensive.
Can add up. Yeah, the clicks can just add up very, very quickly, even as you sleep. So
correct. Absolutely correct. So we tell them that, do your pilot for, even if it is for 15 days or 20 days, doesn't matter, but set aside about 50,000 so that you can figure out the right kind of targeting that you need and whether this platform is working for you at all or not.
Got it.
One last quick question, Vismaya, before we jump into a fun segment. What has been the most kind of memorable campaign for you?
I have two very, very important campaigns that I ran, and both of them are like equally memorable, but for different reasons. So the first campaign I ran as an independent freelancer, and this was like fresh out of my agency. I didn't have a lot of experience running performance marketing campaigns, and this was when I was actually like learning the ropes. So this was for FFX Festival, and
yes. The FFX story is legendary, guys. Please check out our footnotes to know what we are talking about. This woman pulled off something magical over there.
Thank you. So FFX season 1 was sitting, I think, in 2018, and people don't know what the concept of being a creator is, because in their heads, creators are artists, illustrators, people who are doing things that are traditionally considered to be creative. And this was supposed to be a creators festival happening for the first time in India. It was going to be a residential festival, 5 days, and people were asked to pay a substantially high sum of money, right? Like per ticket.
Yeah.
It was 25 grand at that point in time.
Also, it was a live event. It was about 3-4 days, correct?
Yes.
It went,
Yes. And basically, we were asking people to just place their trust in us and trust in our ability to pull off an event, right? And that was challenging because there was no precedence. There was nothing like that at that point in time. And to get people to pay a high sum of money, and also you're targeting people who are like in their early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, who may or may not have the kind of money. So to make that compelling argument and say that this is something that's going to benefit you in the long run, and also pick the right set of people because this was an invite only event. So there were a lot of moving parts. So
Yeah.
the biggest challenge that I faced over there was how do you get people who don't know who you are to actually say, here, take my money and now give me a good experience. In year two, things got slightly better because we had a great first year. So obviously, bigger budgets. We were also looking at a higher number of participants. And then smack bang in the middle of us trying to run those ads was when the entire nation sort of broke into a frenzy. And we had the whole NRC protests. And that was the worst time for you to be saying, hey, come have a great experience with us in February in COVID,
Yeah.
when the entire nation is just up in arms. And rightly so, right? And it was very difficult for us to convince people that this was an experience that they deserved, especially when there was this state of apathy all around. And this is why I keep harping on the fact that being aware of macroeconomic factors, your socio-political scenarios is extremely important as a marketer, regardless of whether you're a performance marketer or a content marketer, whatever it is. Try to figure out what you should say to be sensitive and sensible. So we had to pause our campaign, and believe you me, that did affect a lot of things for us because you have a short stipulated 4 month period to run your entire ads, get sign up, get people interested in the whole thing, pick out the right set of people, send them the invite, get them to pay, whether they want to do the payment in one step, two steps, whatever it is, and then put the entire event together. So there are a lot of things that are dependent on us as performance marketing experts. So we had to unfortunately pause it. And then when we did pick up, we picked up an empathetic angle. And that's where the content team's role actually, I think, is super important, where we said, it's important for us to show up for the right causes and learn how we can be more effective when we are doing those things.
Yeah, I'm just going to sneak in that quote from Albus Dumbledore where he says, words are, in my not so humble opinion, the most inexhaustible source of magic. So thank you, Vis. That really is a case study for the times. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad.
And now it's time for the much awaited Topic Al.
Topic Al, guys. Get it? Get it?
They get it.
So for this episode, Vismaya, we are going with what your internal dialogue is when this happens.
Okay.
Vismaya, can you run a pilot campaign, please?
In my head, it's this aarti thali, and then I'm saying, "Aaye, aapka intezar tha." It's literally that. Thank you so very much for believing that we can run a pilot campaign instead of just saying, "Hey, bring me leads. I am done. I have experienced everything. I've experimented with everything. Just get me leads." But yeah, if you give me the opportunity to run a pilot campaign, I will probably fall on your feet and just be like, thank you so very much.
That's a very interesting take. Okay, Vismaya, increase the budget a little. Yeah, I'm sure it'll work.
In my head, I'm thinking it's your money. I'd gladly do it. But then I'm also not somebody who half-asses work and who actually realizes and recognizes the importance of money, regardless of whether it's yours or mine. So I would try very patiently to then be like, hey, you know what? Maybe that's not the problem. The problem is a lot deeper. You can't symptomatically treat something and hope that the disease disappears. So yeah, that's the internal dialogue.
Okay, so the next one is Vismaya, this audience size is too small.
um, in these cases, I typically want to ask them, what do you think your audience size actually is? I know people who've come back and said, "Arey yaar, everybody needs my product." I have people
Yeah,
in F&B who are just like, who's your audience? Everybody,
everyone.
because everybody can have this, no? They can sit around the table and pass on this thing that I've created, and literally everybody can eat it in the family, including the elders, the youngsters, everyone. So everybody is my teacher. So the reverse is also true, where they come back and say that, why have you made my audience size so tight? Because it doesn't seem like
It's
only
that.
only 2 lakh people are in need of my product. And then you have to go into the depths of explaining to them how you will have a lot of lemons sitting on your page if you run the ad to a wider set of audience, and then how that is counterproductive. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now for some platform problems, actually. You know, that time when LinkedIn says the credit card for running ads has been declined. Please reach out to your billing admin.
Why is he paying for it?
This
Maybe not.
hurts. This hurts because this happens so often. We've literally started taking 2-3 days in a campaign when we promise stuff to just set up the platform and wait around to see if the platform throws up any errors, especially when it comes to payment stuff.
I
You know,
swear.
it's just so annoying. And like right now, I've just come to a point where I say, oh, okay, I know how to fix this. And then I will reach out to them directly, because more often than not, they will respond and they will just be like, that was a mistake on our part.
But it
But
hurts. It hurts in your
it
soul because you were
hurts.
thinking the ad was running all night and then you wake up in the
I
morning and it
swear.
wasn't.
I
Yeah.
swear. I have one very specific example also to give over here. So we had this client who came to us for a performance marketing piece, and we had to run a campaign for 15 days. Okay, they had a week that they were celebrating. It was an event, and this week is extremely important for them because this sets the tone for how much budgets they can get from their global counterparts in the next year and things like that.
Hmm.
Now we have gone ahead and we've prepped the stage, right? Like 1 month before the actual week, we have put out content, we've been promoting stuff and everything. But even for us to go ahead and do that, there were hiccups because client had forgotten the password to
Oh
their
man.
Facebook business manager. And we did some jugaad, we went ahead, tried to figure out a sneaky backdoor way of figuring ads out. We managed to run it for a few days, but then the platforms are also smart. They're like, we noticed some suspicious activity, so we're going to block your ad account.
Oh damn.
And finally, when we managed to get it open, they had restricted our payments. They did not want us to use the same credit card. We had to look for alternate credit cards. It's a whole mess of a situation. Now, when you have a very short burst campaign that you're running, your success metrics are also tied in very tightly to how best you can execute the entire campaign.
Yeah.
Now,
And
at
then
the
that
end of the
week is
campaign,
spent in housekeeping.
yeah,
What do you do?
exactly. Exactly. And then at the end of the campaign, if the client turns around and is like, but you guys promised numbers which I'm not seeing here, it almost feels like they were being super blind to the entire process and what landed in us in that soup, really, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, the platforms are they are
They have a mind of their own,
notorious.
let's just say.
Yeah, for these kind of things, and it's not fun being a performance marketing person when you have to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
But you know what, Vismaya, like ये सब छोड़ो. Like finally, ads haven't worked for us in the past. So just please open your large orange heart and just get me results.
I have so many questions for you, right from who ran your ads? Where did they lead to? What were your success metrics and your objectives? To literally saying, did you actually give that person or yourself enough time to say that, okay, this is not working for me, right? So unless and until I have like a complete case file of sorts, I don't even entertain that conversation because
You're kind of like that, homeopathic doctor who starts with where were you born and how was your
Thoda trust karo, thoda trust karo.
yeah.
Clearly,
I think that's become a thing.
The world runs on faith, and clearly so does performance marketing.
Oh.
And we hope this episode helps you have a little more faith, I guess. And if there are any questions at all, you can find us on LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn profiles are in the show notes. Please do reach out to us and tell us what you think. And if you have any performance marketing questions, I'm going to take the liberty to direct you in the general direction of Vismaya. Please ask her because she knows what she's talking about.
And you also now know what not to ask or what not to say to a performance marketer. So hope that helps too.
I had a lot of fun, Hasita and Subha. Thank you so very much for this.
Thank you, Vismaya, for joining us today. And thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you took away something valuable from this episode. Do tell us what you think. If you like this episode, we have more coming. Please follow us on a podcast platform of your choice. And don't forget to rate. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much and see you next time.
Bye.